There, that'll have to do. Okay, so the sidereal signs, one of the difficulties of using the tropical signs when you start looking at stars, as you see the, because the Earth's rotating, the sun's rotating, the galaxy, the solar system is spinning, the galaxy is turning around, the zodiacs are moving, everything's spinning, everything's moving. It's natural we're a little bit dizzy. You know, it's just, but the stars in the sky, they move. Really, it's our solar system moving. Our zodiac is moving. And so they move approximately, well, the large cycle is 26,000 years, yeah, 25, 12, yeah, so geez, can't believe I forgot that name, the number, 12, 24, yeah, but 25,600 years, it's in that vicinity. So you have the stars, they move 1 degree every 72 years, 1 degree a lifetime, almost 1 degree every 72 years. It moves forward through the tropical zodiac. So that if you did you were trying to look at someone had this how the sun was conjunct Spica, or their sun was conjunct Antares, or the Pleiades, or you want to see where a star is. When you see it in the degree, and if you looked at someone's chart now and you looked at someone's chart 100 years ago, they would be at different places. They would be more than a degree's difference from where the star would be at a different time when the conjunction would happen. So when you're looking at stars, we're going to do a whole section on individual stars right now, but working with stars and seeing 1/10 of the light that comes to the planet comes from the stars. Most of it comes from the sun, which is our seasons and our tropical zodiac. But the other stars are other suns, other masters, other beings that shine their light in. So this 1 degree every 72 years across a whole cycle represents 25,600 years. It's I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on the exact figure of the I actually have it down here somewhere, I think. So okay, but it moves slowly around, and because of the zodiac, the stars and the zodiac moves forward, and the stars and the constellations move forward through the degrees of the zodiac, or counterclockwise. But what happens is, since the stars are more fixed and way out there, they've been given a stronger predominance, or a bigger destiny thing, and the zodiac spins within it. So when we look at the spring equinox, it will move backwards through the stars, through the constellations. It moves backwards as the stars move forward. So as this moves backwards, we're now in the age of Pisces. We're going to go through the ages at the end of this, but this is what determines the age of Aquarius, age of Pisces, when it begins, when it ends. It's not just an intuitive thing. There's a very specific time and date when these things happen. But it's based, the constellations have the signs have some pollution or some confusion in their interpretation by the constellations. The constellations have a lot of their interpretations, and the meanings are tropical interpretations put into the sidereal zodiac. So there's confusions on both sides. Neither side is, in the material that's available, neither side is like perfect in this way. But you will have people swear by the sidereal zodiac and its techniques. People swear by the tropical zodiac, and I think it's just two different ways of looking at the same universe, the same world around us. Okay, different frequencies. The planets are the energies. The sun's the main energy. You have the moon, the planets, and then they're affected by the signs, the color of the signs are in, but they're also moving through the constellations, and the constellations have their influences. And many of the wisdoms and the teachings of the ages and of the ancestors were put into the constellations. And so there's a lot of teachings in the constellations. Now, the sidereal zodiac was created, it's 30 12 degree divisions, just like the tropical zodiac. And they made 12 divisions, 30 degrees each, and they were made to be close to approximate where the constellations are. So the constellations have very different sizes, so they don't exactly fit in. So Pisces is within it, There's some overlap. There's some constellations that are much smaller and fit within a sign. But the value of the sidereal zodiac was it was a mathematical technique that if you remember the tropical signs and you remember the degree of stars in, that star will always be in that degree over thousands of years. So it allows you to work with the fixed stars in a fixed way and put them in a chart so you can work with them. In the tropical zodiac, you can do that from now, but if you're going back or forward, as soon as you're every 72 years, they're in different positions, in different degrees. And across history, over 500-600 years, over 1,000 years, there are big differences where they would be. So the sidereal zodiac is a mathematical convenience of creating 12 signs, 30 degrees each, all equal, and more or less containing the zodiac sign, the constellation, not the sign, the constellation that in the star is more or less containing that. So now the real thing is the constellations. The real energy is coming from the stars and the star groupings of constellations, and they're very different sizes. This is the third zodiac of constellations. So they're put around the chart here, and we're going to go look into this much detail, but I just want to explain it as we're going along here. I tend to consider the constellations, I tend to use them as myths or legends or spiritual teachings, in more intuitive and mystical teachings, rather than the light and darkness increasing, which is in the tropical signs. I see a big distinction between these two layers. We live in the tropical, and we aspire to understand some of the deeper things. And these things can come out, and we can learn them more clearly as we get to the progressions. But with this type of chart, you can just put your planets in your chart, and you can translate to the sidereal and translate to the constellations. You can see them quite quickly where they would be. A lot of the charts you're seeing, you won't have seen other places other than on the forum or in my class, on the website. But I'm hoping once I finish this series of classes, this set of webinars, like by the end of the year, to work on astrology program and get a program where all these forms can be available and you can get these type of charts available and you can use them yourself. So, okay. But instead of Pisces, the constellation of Pisces, I would say it's the constellation of the fish. Instead of Aquarius, I would call it the water bearer, the goat, the archer, the scorpion, the scales, the virgin, the lion, the crab, the twins, the bull, the ram. There's lots of stories and mythologies about these. These teachings are in many mythologies around the world over history. There's lots of special hidden teachings with hidden meanings within it that fit for the sidereal zodiac. I have one book that I would suggest you read. There's not lots of books you can study the mythologies and the constellations, and there's a lot of astronomy books that talk about the astronomy, but they give the legends and the myths of it, and these are insightful from different cultures even. Wikipedia is great for that because you can go and look up the constellation and they give you the pictures that tell you the stars and size. They also tell you the legends that go on with it from different cultures, which is great. Unfortunately, in China, they still have the similar divisions, but they have different constellations. They don't have the same constellations that we have. And they name them differently, they have different meanings. So they're still valid, they would be work, but it's not. Okay, so what happens is the constellations are actually different sizes. Like Aries is 11 degrees. It's 11, no, it's more. It's about 15. It's about 18 degrees. But it more than occupies the sidereal Aries, whereas Pisces is 40 some odd degrees. It occupies all of Pisces, and part of it's in Aries and part of it's in sidereal Aquarius. So they overlap. And Aquarius is only in the first 20 some odd degrees of the water bearer is only in the first 20 degrees of Aquarius. We're going to look at all of these, and some places the constellations overlap, like Capricorn and Aquarius. Some places there's gaps where there's no constellations. So when you're actually dealing with the constellations and the space, it's not a uniform 12 signs of equal degrees. which the sidereal used. So to my mind, the sidereal was invented as a convenient to represent the 12 signs and to keep the 30 degrees so you could have the stars in fixed positions, and it was very functionally useful, especially at a time when there weren't great ephemeris and things. You had observations and things would come. It made it very useful and natural to use. But really, it was so that you could translate. Then you could measure the stars, but you could see that's more or less of the influence of that constellation. Now we've got much better. We've got astronomy. It's much more advanced techniques and measurement systems. And now we don't have to go through the sidereal. We can go right to the constellation and see what constellation is running over your planets or over your zodiac. What constellations are affecting what seasons of the year, what signs of the zodiac. So the study of the relationship of these to each other is a whole field in itself. So we're kind of touching a little bit on this today. Okay, now, so this was the first drawing. I made this chart back in 1975, so a little while ago. So, and I was using the symbols somewhere along the way. Everybody's so used to the symbols that they know. This was an extra complication, so I stopped using these symbols. I might use it for myself on some of the artistic forms, but these symbols, they came and I put the regular symbols back, and I just specify whether it's sidereal or tropical, or I assume tropical unless it's specified sidereal. This is a little table, just shows you traditional name Aries, tropical symbol. This is a symbol. This is bringing in these symbols. So Aries was like a whale. It's all head with the water coming out of the spout, and you still have the same Aries symbol in it. Then you have the sidereal symbol, the general Aries symbol, and you have the constellation of the Ram. So it's because each layer has its own name. Taurus is kind of a fancy bull, fancy horns. It's really a picture of the solar system moving in space. Then the Taurus bull, then the bull for the constellation. Gemini, it's kind of like the caduceus, a mercurial figure, and there's deeper meanings. I'm not going to get into it now. There's sidereal, we just use the regular symbol, and twins. The Cancer, it's like the moon going around the earth, and here you have the Cancer symbol 6-9, and the crab. Leo, and these symbols became the comet, the lion, the Leo symbol, the lion's mane and the lion. The Virgo, the Libra is the atomic balance, Libra scales. Scorpio, they're all kind of a yin-yang. Virgo's a yin-yang, but the bottom part, the legs are crossed. Scorpio's a yin-yang, but the tail is up. And so these symbols all had a wave motion. That was a great inspiration for mine at the time. I was really caught up in it, but then it wasn't. It was just a symbol that represents something, and it's not necessary. You can use the regular symbols for the signs of the zodiac. So, okay, but sometimes in my work, because some of these charts were done a long time ago and I'm using them, you'll see these symbols. So that's why it's here. So then the Scorpion, then you have this is like that, a spear with a ribbon on it, or the archer, the arrow. Capricorn, it's like a stick holding a snake. You know, there's the Capricorn symbol, the goat. Aquarius, well, it's just kind of a wave motion. The Earth's spinning, but there's a funny game called the Barrel Full of Monkeys, and you have to pick one up after the others, and they made the monkeys look like Aquarius. I thought that was kind of funny. Anyways, then you have the symbol Aquarius being the ankles, and as you take your steps, the ankles move up and down, and you have your Aquarius, water bearer. Then you have Pisces, the fish, which is like the serpent that becomes the whale in Aries, where the water comes out of the head. So this was the logic of these symbols. But the tropical symbols, the sidereal symbols, the constellations, it's not. Don't worry yourself about these odd symbols. But in the constellations, they're all different sizes. So let me just pull out I want to pull out something here. Why isn't it there? Okay, 1 second. Here. Chart 330. Okay, is that it?